Hello, hi everyone. I'm gonna keep this short because I know everybody's here for the food. But before we dive in though, I wanted to make a quick announcement. Woo Can Cook is opening its very first physical location in West Oakland at the Prescott Market Food Hall. Yes, after more than 3 years, we are finally graduating out of our 10x10 Easy Up tent into our very own real life kitchen, y'all. Before we do this though, I am also crowdfunding a small portion of our financing because it's gonna be really expensive. So there's a bunch of cool rewards that I think a lot of folks have been waiting for, like Woo Can Cook t-shirts, aprons, virtual and in-person cooking classes, and a bunch more stuff. So if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, it would mean the world to me if you could donate whatever that you are able to, or if not, simply sharing the campaign link also helps a lot too. More about this in the link in the description, or visit woocancook.com/eats for more information too. Okay, back to the food.
Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to Filipino classic comfort food dishes with a shot at a dish with somewhat murky and unclear origins known as a Pancit Canton. Now, for those not familiar, pancit itself is a dish with pretty definitively Filipino origins, wherein a parcooked noodle is flash fried with veggies and soy sauce and most iconically features the use of chicken stock to form its base. For those looking, not too long ago, we did also do a version known as Pancit bihon, which prominently features a thin vermicelli rice noodle at its core. But for our Pancit Canton today though, we will instead be using a thin Cantonese egg noodle, or sometimes referred to as Pancit Canton or Hong Kong noodle. This is because, as you might have guessed, Pancit Canton ventures into the meeting place of Filipino and Cantonese cuisine, wherein we are essentially making a Filipino adaptation of lo mein or chow mein, which is pretty neat. So, to this end, we are going to be hanging onto a number of techniques and elements that make this dish iconically pancit. Most prominently, this includes the reduction of chicken stock in the wok to yield our thickened sauce base and softened noodles. But at the same time though, we are also going to see the inclusion of a number of Cantonese ingredients too, like Shaoxing wine and lapchang sausage, because we are essentially now making a Cantonese stir-fry. Okay, so let's get into it.
Let's look at the show. We're riding in a wonderland of snow. Giddy yap, it's grand. Just holding your hand.
Okay, so diving right in, we're kicking things off here first with some aromatics for our wok fry, which will be blooming early on in our stir fry in the hot oil for their aromatic qualities. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic to start, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger and the whites of 3 green onions sliced up thinly. Then we're taking these reserved greens of our green onions, slicing these up into planks and setting aside to add to our stir fry for a nice additional veggie later on. Rounding out our veggies today, now as with many stir fries, a Pancit Canton can contain any number of veggies that you might have at your disposal. For me today, this is going to be some carrot, cabbage, snow pea, and onion, but mushrooms, bell pepper, green beans, and really anything else that you might have at your disposal will all work great too. In any case, I'm starting with a julienne chop to our carrots here first so that they match the texture of our thin egg noodles, then similarly slicing my cabbage thinly as well. As far as I can tell, this cabbage might be the single consistent veggie amongst every pancit, or chow mein for that matter, that I have ever had, but I'm also still going to stand by my opinion that cabbage is and always will be a filler veggie with little to no contribution in flavor or texture, so if you sub this out with another veggie for your own attempts, I'm all for that. Next up, for my snow peas, I'm removing their tip ends here because these tend to get a little bit chewy to bite into before giving these a quick rinse in cold water. Then finally, for my onion, I'm slicing these into strips by separating the layers first to help achieve a more even slice. Is this essential? I mean, no, not really, but I have found that if you do 2 or 3 layers at a time though, it takes roughly the same amount of time as you would otherwise spend trying to slice around the dome shape of the onion, but you also end up with a more even slice, so I don't know. Next up, moving on to our proteins, up first here is going to be 4 lapchang sausages sliced into coins on a bias. Lapchang is a dried Cantonese pork sausage made with Chinese 5-spice, so in my opinion, once these fry or steam, they're going to release an aromatic quality to them that might be the single most iconic smell to all Chinese food in existence. Then rounding out our proteins here, this is some pork loin that I'm large dicing with as many slices as I can manage against the grain to help keep our pork nice and tender. Then next, we're combining this with one of my favorite marinades for lean cuts of meat because it includes an acid to help tenderize the meat and an additional fat to help assist in our wok hei later on. First up, this is 4 tablespoons of soy sauce to start, followed next by a single tablespoon of sesame oil for our additional fat, and a single tablespoon of Shaoxing wine for our acid. Then rounding this all out is a half teaspoon of white pepper, which we're mixing to combine and setting aside for 30 minutes while we dive into our sauce next. Okay, so a Pancit Canton to my taste most prominently features the use of oyster sauce to act as its primary umami driver. I have seen some recipes calling for dark soy sauce to serve for this purpose instead, but if you ask me though, I think the dark soy sauce is going to be a little bit too overwhelming for our light and bright sauce base here. So, up first, this is a base of another 4 tablespoons of soy sauce to start, followed as promised by a single tablespoon of oyster sauce. Then next, I'm rounding this out with a tablespoon each of Shaoxing wine for some brightness and brown sugar for some nice malted sweetness. I'm mixing this all to combine, then setting aside for a moment while we head over to the stove to get started on our pork next. Over on the stove, I have my wok heating up today at medium heat so that we may begin with a sear to our pork loin. First up, this is 4 tablespoons of peanut oil going in, then as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then next, here's my pork going in with as much of that marinade liquid held back as possible to help reduce oil splattering. I'm letting this sear undisturbed for 2 minutes, then bringing the heat up to high and tossing with the wok tilted downward for wok hei to give us a nice smoky quality to our dish. Remember that extra sesame oil that we added to our marinade? This is why we added it, y'all. Next up, this is my lapchang going in, which I'm tossing for about 2 to 3 minutes until lightly cooked and nice and fragrant, then removing this all from my wok. Moving on with our stir fry next, I've got my wok heating up as hot as possible this time, then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil and giving 1 more long yao. Then next, this is my garlic, ginger, and the whites of my green onions going in, which we're tossing for 15 seconds until nice and fragrant. I'm following this up with my sturdier veggies. Here's my carrots and cabbage going in for a 1 to 2 minute head start, then followed by our more delicate veggies. Here's my snow peas and onions going in next. We're sauteing these for another 1 to 2 minutes then. Now, this is a step that I personally don't agree with because I think it's going to cause the veggies to steam and turn soggy, but it is also an absolutely critical step to any pancit, and if nothing else, we're here for accuracy, I guess, so here we go. I'm adding our proteins back to the wok here, along with 8 ounces of Cantonese egg noodles, the greens of our green onions, and our sauce mixture, plus what ended up being about half a cup of chicken stock. Then I'm tossing this all to combine for 2 to 3 minutes until that liquid steams off, yielding a nice tender noodle for our pancit, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so I'll just point this out now that while yes, the final addition of stock to our stir fry yields for us a soft, steamed noodle, it also is going to steam our flash fried veggies and proteins, yielding a softer steamed quality to everything else that's in the wok, namely, in this case, our more delicate veggies like our onions, snow peas, and cabbage, which, dare I say it, are now slightly overcooked. And while I absolutely acknowledge that this is 100% an iconic part of how any Pancit Canton can come together, and for what it's worth, I've eaten a lot of Pancit Canton, and this steamed quality is absolutely something that I have come across in pretty much every version of this dish that I've ever had. I'm just gonna say it, if we did some batch cooking here by removing those veggies from the wok, then steaming the noodles in the chicken stock, then adding everything back to the wok to combine, it would have yielded a crisper, more toothsome veggie, more akin to how a Cantonese noodle would be cooked. Is this culturally accurate? No, I guess not, but I don't know. Okay, all of the Filipinos can go ahead and leave their rage in the comments now. In any case, despite all of this, I think the stir fry that we're left with here is still one of my favorites that we've come up with of late. Our sauce base is simple and uncomplicated, leaving lots of space for our chicken stock and the aromatics of our lapchang to come through, which I love. Then our noodles are nice and tender thanks to our steam, yielding a wonderfully messy, slightly chaotic stir fry that's perfect for feeding your next dinner party.
Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to classic Filipino dishes, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet because there's a lot of these. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon.